Welcome back to another week of the weekly top 5 games of the week, week 12 edition, and we are back nowhere else. Where else would we rather be than right here on FedEx Field once again for the game between the Washington Commanders and the Atlanta Falcons. Let's pull up the stats. Now, this game is fun because I feel like these teams have already played each other. They're two teams that have been considered to be bad for a while now. And you would they're always in close games, so I keep talking about them. I feel like I've talked about Marcus Mariota this year more than I've ever thought about Marcus Mariota. And Taylor Heineke, of course, hero all around. Here they are with another win. The Commanders do it again. Falcons are still in it, though. I believe the Buccaneers. They're either 5-7 or I believe they're 6-5, maybe, or 6-6. I believe they're 6-6. So now, here we are. Commanders 7-5. Is there something in the water in the East? Am I right? AFC East, NFC East. No one had any expectations for this team. And now that when they got Wentz, I thought, why bother? But 7-5. We could have two divisions that represent more than half of the teams in both conferences based on the way these records, especially in the NFC. And you might have a team with a losing record make it out of the NFC South. So, what a win. Go Heineke. His numbers just, Robert Griffin III brought up, RG3 brought up on Twitter all the pains that people have had with Zach Wilson, and then that there was another player that had roughly the same stats that they were really praising, and that other player was Taylor Heineke. They're calling for Wilson to be benched. Heineke is like the hero of DC right now. And what's the difference? Well, I would say the difference is they weren't good with Wentz, and then they won with Heineke. I think that the Jets were fine with Flacco, and then Wilson, they won, in spite of him, not because of him. And I don't know, Heineke, I guess, just gets it done. Maybe he's just got that spunk. And of course, he's better in the locker room. You don't say you don't feel responsible or burden or feel bad. You feel bad if you only pass for 77 yards. But that's neither here nor there. Let's get back to what the Commanders have done, which is win again. They beat the Eagles a couple weeks ago. I believe they won last week. What are they on right now? They are on a 1-2-3 game win streak. 5 of 6? Is that 6 of 7? Wow, that's delightful. That is delightful. The only team they lost to recently was the game they probably could have won, and they would be 8-4 if they did not blow a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter against the Vikings. They would be 8-4, and the Commanders would be ahead of the Giants, who are 7-4. Right now they're tied. Right now they're one game behind or a half game behind because they're 7-5. Absolutely insane. I don't know how they keep peeling these wins off. They're all really ugly score-wise. Their defense keeps them in it. Heineke makes enough plays. Their run game is solid. Robinson with 105 yards, 18 rushes. It's over 5 yards a carry. It's delightful. Gibson is good. McLaurin makes the plays when they need to be made. But they're going to make the playoffs, right? I know the NFC East has had a cakewalk schedule by being able to play against the NFC South, but they got the Giants, and you tell me who's better. Commanders are favored by 2.5 in New York. Who do you got for that? And then they play the Giants again, back to back, which is weird. Never seen division opponents play each other back-to-back. So these next 2 games, they got a freaking 2-game series. This is like baseball over here. The Giants and the Commanders. Who's going to take it? Oh, my goodness. And then let's turn our sights onto the Falcons. I mean, right there just pretty much decides who makes the playoffs. The Commanders and Giants, if that goes 2-0, the Commanders can be 9-5. Giants can be 9-4. You know, that puts them pretty much in there. Then they have the 49ers, the Browns. With Watson, the Browns don't look bad. Although I will say if the Commanders don't go 2-0, they might not make the playoffs because they got 49ers, Browns, and Cowboys. And those will be harder unless the Cowboys are not playing at the end of the season. But I do still feel really good for the Commanders. They might miss that Vikings win a little bit. As for the Falcons, I don't know. They're right there. You know? They're right there in the division. Let's see. A half game behind the Buccaneers. I know they just lost this one, and that's a bummer. They lost to the Panthers. Kind of bad. I don't know. Maybe you can't trust them. But they're going in against the Steelers, which, wow, really strangely, right now while recording this, they have 2 games up on them because the Steelers haven't played on Monday Night Football yet, and the Falcons haven't had their bye week this late in the season. I didn't know teams went this late, but everyone played this weekend. So everyone plays Thanksgiving weekend. That's a rule in the NFL, apparently. They couldn't have anyone off. No one gets to enjoy their Thanksgiving. Everyone must work. Come on. Ridiculous. But they get to finish the season. Steelers, Saints aren't great, and then Ravens, Cardinals, and finally, my goodness, who would have guessed right before we move on from this game, which, by the way, ended with the Falcons having the ball on the... I didn't even talk about the game. Falcons had the ball on the 4-yard line, second down, and they threw an interception. Marcus Mariota, that one little pick. The one blemish on his game, you know. He did everything perfectly, 12 for 25. The one blemish on his game was to throw an interception in the end zone with less than a minute left. Down by 6. Bummer. That's a bummer. But who would have guessed that the Falcons and the Buccaneers, both with losing records, both atop the NFC South, would play each other in the last game of the season? That's one to look forward to. Let's move on to the next game.